Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Tacoma. You know, thinking about it some more, there's some real problems with this narrative. So some questions pop immediately to mind in that how could someone not know what obsolescence day is when obsolescence day was supposed to happen in 1880 and this is I mean 2080 and this is 2088. Like the idea that you wouldn't know the reason for a brand new holiday that's only been going for 8 years is kind of ridiculous. Another problem here is there's a lot of showing off that there is a union, but the union seems to have been completely ineffective of actually maintaining people's jobs, which would be the very first thing that you would need to strike for or negotiate for in a union, is to not have this system in which entire crews are fired by default and uh, after a year, even if it's a case where they maybe are not renewed for that specific interesting. We have the whole lock we can use. It's an electric lock, so maybe we'll use that later. Even if they were moving around their locations, that's hardly a very strong union at that point. Which, heck, there definitely are bad unions that really are just lockstep working with the corporation and not really supporting the people they're supposed to be representing. But yeah, definitely feels like there's some storyline flaws. It says please press spacebar. I wish I knew what she was signing.
No, Germler, I don't know. I don't know why. All right, I mean, you know how I've always been. It's never real in my mind. Why would she give a damn about me? Of all the people... Shit. Oh, bollocks. No, I'm spilling scotch all over outer space.
So, interesting. While we're in here, I think the video may be paused. But... no, it's not paused. So yeah, it definitely seems like he doesn't really seem to...
real in my mind. Why would she give a damn about me? Of all the people... Shit. Oh, bollocks. No, I'm spilling scotch all over outer space.
So yeah, he just doesn't know if the relationship is real or not, and so he's teasing like he has a relationship, but he's also actively looked for other jobs. And maybe there is something about the lock that we'll need to grab later, but yeah, I just don't know. And since this is the only thing here, I mean, it probably is effective to... let's see. Could you lock a door? Or are you going to be fairly limited in what the item is that you could lock? I think you may be very limited down to just putting locks on bunks. Hey, we found the house cat. Interesting. Alright, well, we'll put the lock there just in case we need it later. Let's see. I wouldn't be surprised if it turned out that the house cat caused some glitch somewhere. But it does kind of just seem like the house cat doesn't do anything either. Just straight up seems to be stuck there. So nothing intriguing revealed in that. And then the last thing we have here is the shower, which there definitely is a problem, certainly with that. I am using the controller, but the prompts have decided to say space. I guess you have to pause and unpause to correct that. Yeah, there seems to be like no real privacy, and then I'd really like to know how these holograms are projecting and how the audio is projecting. And if at a certain point you can just project these kinds of things, are they because of augmented reality chips which are in the people? Maybe that's the idea why we see these low wireframe animations. Almost certainly it really is more of a case of the animators just not wanting to really animate all the people, and we're preferring instead to just buy pre-made assets of shampoo bottles and things like that to flesh out what would have otherwise been a simplistic game. Arguably, this might have been a game that that would have benefited better from just being flat 2D animated anyways. There's a towel here, but am I supposed to believe that that was from 4 months ago? There's barely any water coming out. Interesting. See, someone showering, though, is... Let's see. Can we just pause this for a second? Yeah, you're not really going to expect too much to really happen in a shower, particularly if you're just seeing a wireframe. Doesn't even really feel like the wireframe is moving around. And oddly, it seems like it's become fairly common to bring up your augmented reality and chat with people while you're showering, which I assume means that there is no camera connection to it, which, yeah, we've seen no indication. This seems like this is probably probably more explanation than anything else, and less corruption than anything else. No, that's what the Human Oversight Accord means. If an orbital facility is run by AI, the HOA requires there be an AI specialist on board, and if there's one human on board, there need to be at least 2 other people for up to a 3-month hitch. The coveted NAT support rules. I knew it. And for postings of a year or more, you need 6. Sanity, wellness, admin, you name it. Also, it guarantees a whole lot of people union jobs that they wouldn't have otherwise. So literally, it's because there's an AI that this person is on the ship, even though that she doesn't have access really to parts of the AI, and it's because she's on the ship and it was a year-long job. They hired 6 other people, just all kind of busy workers. What if I told you I'd feel a lot more sane if there were a couple fewer people around? You and me, both kids. So it almost would be more interesting a split if some of the people on the ship weren't real, or if this was the only real person and everybody else was fake hallucinations or artificial intelligence or something. Here we have some kind of music album cover. Right. We'll rewind. Yeah. Not even really moving. She's playing her own music. And I imagine that you can't look through a door and see something else. I imagine it wouldn't capture what's outside of the... So her name is Natalie. Yeah, really doesn't seem like there's anything around that, and it does seem like that is oddly extra for kind of no reason, like, and not actually that good as something that potentially would be oddly extra. It definitely feels like you would prefer the character to move around and either the music to be longer, more interesting, or just straight up go a little bit lewd and have her at least moving around somewhat. But I guess we are done with this area. It doesn't really feel like there's much here you could have pulled from this, which is probably important. So basically everything is around this character, and then the Nat Effet Day. We're still not really sure what that is. We know we are on this day of the next month. We know that the last recording we have here we've seen is 3 days ago. So the last day of the month, which would have been Obsolescence Day. And our job seems to be really to just take the data that's been downloaded and deliver it back. Seems to be all they care about. We're not really supposed to be wandering around or researching anything. Alright. Subcontractor Farrier, please proceed to the biomedical module to continue the AI data transfer process as per your contract. Time is of the essence with respect to this mission. Alright, and so yeah, we definitely are not moving particularly fast, but we potentially here are a third of the way done with the story, although it does kind of feel like you could also you could also, well, no, you can't take this with you. So whose other bedrooms did we even see in this facility? Really was just her. And it's funny that that's labeled as a personnel quarter, because it really is just her quarters. And yeah. So while it is possible that there's some secret lock on something, you'd basically have to know where it goes to find it. And it could be anything. It could be a wall, it could be just a point on a wall. But if this lock is going to play any role on anything, it is going to be in this area. It could be the music is the thing that made Odin's AI go crazy. That is believable somewhat, but we don't really know if Odin's AI did go crazy. Oh man, that is hitchy. That's just straight up frozen. I definitely have been leaving this game running, and yeah, I think the game has just straight up decided to lock up. Let's see, if it was working in the background and not showing the visuals, by this point we almost certainly would have been done, and particularly for my SSD, it should have loaded in. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to crash out the game, which that could be a nightmare certainly if there's been no checkpointing or saving happening at all, because then we would have to start the whole game over again, and yeah, that would be unacceptable. Let's give it another minute before I make a final decision, but yeah. There really is not a lot happening here. Alright, let me pause the recording and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. Let's click continue game and see where that puts us. Inherently, this game has no excuses for being buggy. Alright, the good news is it does seem like that pretty much did that. The bad news is it does seem like there's just some wonkiness. Although with just a fresh reload, it does seem like that's probably better. But yeah, there's no excuse for visual wonkiness. There's no excuse for gameplay wonkiness. This really is a experience that should have been as smooth as possible. But even in it flying up here, I'm still feeling wonkiness of just like some frame judder and pausing, and it feels like it's trying to load into a hard drive when it's not loading into a hard drive at all. And we are back now to floating in space. Hmm. 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 So the fact that there's cryogenics now really doesn't make a lot of sense. So it almost certainly is going to be in biomedical. We start to figure out that these are like clones or something, and then cryogenics we find that there are either humans cloned or something else. It's probably not worth the extra load either. to go and look at your ship. But I would like to know at least one question as to, could you potentially end the story here? Let's see, install wetware here. Seems like we don't have wetware. Yeah. There's nothing special here, new here to do. So that's a waste of time. Feels like we're probably an hour, a third of the way through with the game. And we, let's see. Can't get any more AR hardware. Yeah, it feels like what you would have is potentially an attempt at a second mystery in the second act in the second area that would not really make sense or connect until much later, near the end of the game. These hand-drawn things again feel oddly like they are built around the maybe young Natalie or Nat alone doing that. See, as far as biomedical goes, it doesn't seem like there's really any corruption around any of that, so it is possible that this area is going to be much less corrupted. Yep. One twist that is somewhat possible here, but it would be odd, is that there actually aren't any humans left on Earth. And the last few people in space are all working in space stations. It would be hard to tell as a story, but it would be an interesting twist to say, oh no, while you're concerned about AI taking over your jobs in space, AI took all the jobs in and killed all the people on Earth or on the moon or wherever. I assume if you didn't have your AI enabled, you really wouldn't even see this panel. Alright, we are seeing some corruption, botany and medical. Of course, we kind of know that there's only a certain number of people here. These posters, very childish and simplistic, infantilizing the kids. It's just like sad, see the medical, get a checkup, get pills, be happy. This is 2 days ago. Please proceed to exam room for your appointment. Let's see, medical storage. Seems to have been ransacked. Anti-allergy caplets. It seems like you probably wouldn't need too much of that. Vitamins. Pain relief. Allergy. Why would you be allergic to things in a spaceship? Wouldn't that be fairly easy as far as something that you could control? Here we have another hat. And then what is this? Secure medical storage, and that needs a key to get into the locked pills. Okay. Probably does behoove you somewhat to just look around before you even start playing something back. This goes to personal quarters, probably for the doctor. Then you have a full office here. Okay. Interesting, the eye chart not corrupted. These hand washing stations, I imagine, are somewhat designed around the idea of not letting water float in zero gravity and get into a not letting it short circuit technology. Although we have artificial gravity, so the idea of something floating at our mouths is not really believable. So what is this? Remove any items from your pockets. No need to fully disrobe. Lie down on the scanning beds and relax. Please remain still during the skill. Take a moment. Facility medical staff will have your results immediately. So this is some kind of scanning thing for imaging, like X-ray. Then we have another passcode, but it does certainly highlight a problem. Here we have a real skeleton, or real fake skeleton. Definitely highlights just some lack of real gameplay here, in that all we're looking for is codes. All we're looking for is locks and keys, and maybe we'll get some story around there. This really does not feel like the way a latex glove would really look or interact with gravity. Just hanging off over the edge by a thread. Right. And if there's some kind of crazy mist-like solution here where you have to close every single window to close shielding, then that's going to be annoying, to say the least. Alright, let's go ahead and recover this. I obviously want us to see this first.
Okay, Sarah. We'll see you over in Mech as soon as everything's wrapped up here.
Alright, good speed.
So,
Once more.
Natalie. Again, you're just getting such corrupted data that most of this stuff, they're just straight up telling you that you are that it doesn't matter. I need to sleep would be, I assume, what this says. See you on the other side, the user is offline. That may be a point where she left the ship, though. Cryogenic facilities off of the active, 2 cryopods occupied, oxygen supply approximately 50 hours. So they may have all gone into cryogenic stasis voluntarily to save oxygen. But see, if you were going to kill the crew after a year, creating a false asteroid collision and saying you're losing oxygen and then pushing everybody to go into cryopods would make a lot of sense if the cryopods actually aren't cryopods, but are instead actually just incinerators that, like, destroy the bodies or erase the minds, or something like that.
Or into the bridge. What?
I don't know. I'm just thinking about how Evie and Clive are already in deep freeze. Did you read the message they sent?
Yeah. Why are we going into the supply closet?
I got to talk to them a little bit right before Sarah took them down to cryo, and Evie was being so encouraging. They're putting all their faith in us, but
But what?
right before they turned to go, just for a second, they look so worried.
Oh, baby.
The clock is ticking, and I just keep thinking, what if the last time they saw each other is the last time they'll ever see each other?
Don't think about that.
How can I? How can you not think about it?
So, you know the concept of partitioning from early century computing?
Yeah, I think so.
So, you have a data drive. Maybe one partition was your operating system, and the other one was like general data storage. And maybe you'd partition part of the drive off to contain something that might be unstable that you otherwise kind of, wanted not to interfere with anything else. There are certain things that are gonna help us get this done, but some things, they need to be partitioned off. Because thinking about them isn't gonna help us.
But you're thinking about us, at least, aren't you?
Yeah. And when I do let myself start thinking about how there's a possibility this is the last of our time together too, then I start thinking we should really make the most of it.
And it kind of stops there. Alright, so that's why this is all ransacked. I guess I don't know enough about lesbian relationships that the idea of just like jumping on somebody and knocking them over would be typical romance, but okay, I'll leave it at that. Everybody's different. Oddly, I want to talk more about the partitioning concept. Linux in particular really has pushed for the idea of having different partitions for different parts of the operating system. Putting perhaps the log folder on a different partition or a different hard drive, putting the temporary folder on a different partition and hard drive. Windows and for the most part everything else generally assumes that you're going to put almost everything on one hard drive. If you're a gamer, you tend to want to put everything on an SSD and then have a cold storage kind of backup hard drive for backups and just larger, slower things that you don't really need access to as quickly. But even in the cases of Linux, the idea of moving your folders around is not really that necessary or even that heavily pushed. There is, I guess, a slight idea of moving the home folder, which would be the equivalent to the Windows My Documents folder, or users folder, more accurately. And I guess Windows does try to push that idea too, is to have specific users have a separate place for their settings, but there hasn't been a great embracing of that idea either. And honestly, when you have data loss, you tend to just have data loss on everything, and it tends just to be catastrophic, and it's just better to have a good 3-2-1 style backup system where you can restore a full backup. Linux and having separate home folders particularly is more from the idea that you're messing around with Linux and reinstalling it over and over again, which is not a typical experience for what people are trying to do. So throughout that whole time, I guess there was a music playing.
Okay, Sarah. We'll see you over in Mac. As soon as everything's wrapped up here.
All right, Godspeed. Once more into the bridge.
Do the right thing.
In what regard?
So here we have some more stuff that we can try and restore and just fail. Added a tracking widget, which is what we now see.
Oh, Odin. Did I do the right thing?
In what regard?
Does Nat deserve to know what her odds are if she ends up going into cryo?
I believe that you have made a decision with both Roberta and Natalie's best interests at heart.
Above all, do no harm. If we do make it out of this thing, Nat's going to have to find out I didn't tell her everything at some point.
I believe that is a bridge to be crossed at a later date. Andrew is here for his exam.
Oh. Send him in.
Some of this technology seems
So you showed up for your exam.
oddly
So
old-fashioned, just like using paper
What's gonna happen to us, Sarah?
on a table.
What? Well, Bert and Nat are going to fix up the drone with life support, and then we're...
No. I mean, what if things don't work out? And we're still stuck in cryo?
Oh. Well, when you go into stabilizing sleep, it feels just like any other sleep, really. The body effectively goes into a controlled hypothermic coma.
Do you dream?
Sometimes. Sometimes very intense dreams.
And then what?
After a certain amount of time, your body slows down too much, things start shutting down, don't wake back up.
It doesn't hurt.
No.
Do you think Bert and Nat can get it done?
I do.
Then I'll just have to trust your professional opinion and do my part. It's been good working with you, Doc. I'm ready for my exam.
And so that's them hearing them collide. I wonder if there's supposed to be a code here in this painting. If there is, I don't immediately discern it. So you got 3 relaxing sounds you can play. Let's check this system and just see if there's anything of interest here. The reminder phase for the bioscan access code is graduation, so we need to figure out when she graduated. Let's see. So, apparently they're asking her to take responsibility for an incident on September 2nd, 2085 upon the foundation of Paradise. So they're saying, we'll give you better jobs if you take responsibility. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck here. 2080 is the code then, which I suppose it means if we do have to brute force anything, we could potentially start in like 2080 and work our way up to 2088. Right. So, just getting really these smiley faces. Inherently, it's fairly obvious you should have made this game in green screened full motion video instead of the low polygon trip to it. Like, that's where I probably would have put the budget. Is hire some actors, do something like the Myst games where you just have somebody in a green screen room acting. You have groups of people acting, you have them walking from room to room, and then you put them in a 3D environment, and it might be a little off-putting, but it wouldn't probably be any more off-putting than seeing these little polygon shapes. Yeah. Interesting. So, we do have an explanation as to why we saw no feminine hygiene products, potentially. Let's see. Standard immuno-antiviral schedule A through C, addictive substance resistance 4, anti-carcinogenic filter series A, Sanger C, right? CM, I don't know what CM, menstrual suppression, blood type tailoring, global allergen filter, UNAC standard 2059, telomere degeneration filter Omega Plus, which means that she would not potentially age, or her cells wouldn't age and die as much, potentially being immortal. Vision and hearing schedule 1. No physical symptoms that might lead to injury or death following cryogenic stasis or revival. Physicians should proceed with cryogenic procedures as appropriate. So we know Roberta Williams is fine. Let's look at this guy, because he also probably doesn't really matter too much. And he's 41. What was her age? 27. Let's see. Some of his genetic filtering signatures seem to be older, but he is older. So he's safe to be cryogenically frozen also. She obviously is not at 23 years old. Heart murmur, probable mitral stenosis. She also has no genetic filtering signatures, which is interesting compared to the other two. Clear signs of cardiovascular normality heart murmur. This condition represents a severe risk of death during the cryogenic revival process. Expected probability of survival for the patient under the treatment is 18%. Patient is not recommended for cryogenic stasis. Now, did we get to a point, though, where we know for a fact that...
Well, when you go into stabilizing sleep, it feels just like any other sleep, really. The body effectively goes...
Do we know for a fact that she was even planned to be in stasis at that time?
Oh, Odin, did I do the right thing?
In what regard?
It doesn't just... It really does not feel like there's a way
Decision with both Roberta.
Yeah.
that there could be anything else to see other than possibly a cat hiding around. We may just get yet another speech.
Odin, is Sarah ready for me?
I will tell her that you are here.
The memory stops. Well, walking from that direction.
At Venturis, we look boldly into the future, not
Yep.
backward into the past. While we are proud of our heritage luxury facilities, like the Zenith Lunar Resort, the popular perception of orbital travel as playground of the super wealthy is outdated. It's holding us back. The future of Venturis is inclusivity, and that inclusivity is defined by the Venturis Belt Project, a network of 1,000 fully automated private vacation homes encircling Earth, available to the public at prices a mere fraction of any orbital travel on offer today. The Venturis Belt will be a revelation of industry and rocket our enterprise to amazing new heights.
This has been a message from your Chief Executive Officer, Sergio Venturi.
So he wants to broaden his target audience by making more automated, cheap orbiting bungalows / vacation homes, which at a certain point I think an economy just falls apart if it is 100% built around one industry, and in this case an industry of just vacationing and traveling. There obviously is some level of government that still exists in this world. It isn't a full corporatocracy or several corporations fighting each other, but the government seems to be fairly ineffective. They make different sounds when they play that. That may mean something. This window doesn't really feel like it's a great view of anything. Dead plants. A plaque. This is some kind of religion. I don't know if it's a real religion, though. Alif Lam Mim. Yeah. Some kind of... It feels like that would be Indian of some sort. How come this hand washing station is greener than everything else? Sky Spar. Anti-anxiety support. And see, she has just a standard toothbrush, which then confuses the future toothbrush we saw before. And then you just have generic scrunchy slash hair elastic things. Sanitize button, flush button. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's much here. So once again, we'll probably get a fairly boring experience. So we have this image life, and then CM must be something like copyright or now an equivalent to the idea of having a copyright. Yeah. Again, it probably would have just made more sense to have live action people. Like, this almost seems like this is just a live action image that's had some effects put on it, whereas this looks fully animated. I think also maintained in memory of JJ 9285. So JJ here, which is either her or him or her, it's hard to even really tell. I think one of them ended up dying due to the incident, and that's what you're supposed to gather from that. Unfortunately, I have to inform you, request is defined as classified by Venturis, and it's always insulting when a corporation claims something is classified or proprietary. It's straight up just business lies, business speak to say we don't want to tell you, as if a corporation should have the authority to classify something. Arguably, you can make an argument that even governments should have very limited ability to classify something as being secret, top secret, things like that. So she's trying to get some kind of evidence to probably exonerate herself. And trying to get Nat to help us. So the backstory seems to be that the Fountain of Paradise medical AI malfunctioned about 3 years ago, and they're trying to get the human to take the blame because they're trying to push a narrative, I imagine, of the this is like a thumbs up type thing. Yeah, they're trying to push the narrative that AIs are perfect. And so this J.J. Pratt was going to found the paradise. And he was some kind of food blogger. Alright, so we're getting some backstory around the idea of an AI being glitchy. Interesting. Seems almost like the beginning of this would just be a standard poem, but then at the bottom it says changing line 1 to hex 48, the well. So instead of deep waters, the well in heavens. In the heavens. Seems like a decent number of people have these coins, which probably just means that they are, like so many other things, kind of generic, unimportant things. Books of Changes, I Ching. What's not going to work here, certainly, is if all of a sudden you have to have read these books and you have to go outside of the game to read these books and be familiar with them. That would definitely not work as an idea. Let's see. We have a lid and in the lid seems to be some kind of container. I'd almost think it was chocolates, but it seems actually fairly big for chocolates. I can't help but feel like Gone Home did this so much better, because almost everything in Gone Home was important, where a lot of this is just doesn't feel like it's that important, really. Like, a lot of this just seems like it's backstory stuff, or just repeated things. Another QR code. Again, if the game requires you to look through QR codes, I'm not willing to do that either. Workout playlist 3. Memory ends at this door. And it all seems to center around music. But we're not recording the music or capturing the music. But they seem to be very focused on keeping recordings of the music. Of course, we're not even getting the subtitles on the music playing. I suppose if you were going to do live action actors, you probably would want to keep some level of visual effect on it, something that they would glitch out the live action footage. And I think you still would have a problem, definitely, with your budget if you're going to do live action actors in a full motion video type game set in space. You still would potentially have a risk. of wasting a lot of budget just buying pre-rendered 3D models, just filling the game up with a lot of that. At a certain point, that does just make this game a hidden object game where we are just looking for hidden objects. Although you could particularly coin a phrase here and call this a hidden story game, because we're struggling to find a narrative. Alright. See, that gets you to about 50%, and I imagine that has more to do with just the things I've seen than how long it's taken me to see those things. Right. See, upset, grow food, eat food, be happy. And see, if there really is supposed to be some kind of code in the glitching, I don't know if I would believe that. So, chicken, fish, supply is low on fish, protein, medium. I assume that they're just genetically engineering proteins and not actually making cows. Yeah, I assume that is just a big tube of meat. And then lots of mushrooms, which there is some weirdness in that we saw the medical doctor was part of a family that practices Ramadan, which would imply she wouldn't eat cows, probably, and may not eat much meat at all. But who knows, in this future time, food restrictions may have changed and food attitudes may have changed. It does seem like there's oddly a small number of plants growing here compared to the amount of meat that is being genetically engineered through here, because this is kind of a massive amount of meat for 6 people, whereas it really isn't that much vegetables, or that even that much of a variety of vegetables. It seems like it's mostly squashes of one variety and tomatoes, and that's it. So maybe these are genetically engineered plants. This might be some kind of lettuce, spinach or something, lentils. I don't know enough about plants to try to identify it, but yeah. Unless these were genetically engineered that they grew one tomato every 5 hours or something. I guess we are getting to a point here where there is maybe not even going to be that much of a... Can't use the pencil with the sticky note. Interesting. We may not even really see a level of memories, and we may just be searching empty rooms. Here you have a question mark of somebody's face that they don't know. Interesting how gravity affects that. And that doesn't really seem to be the case for anything else. Notably, there is one stone missing, so if there's a murder afoot, that might be a murder weapon, but we really haven't seen anything like that. And then we have 0281, which is great, except for the fact that we don't have a lock for that code. If they're growing plants and vegetables, then the question really comes down to, why do they have so much cup noodle everywhere? Let's see. There's some kind of Tibetan genocide of 2052. Interesting. But would that really have anything to do with anything? If anything, I suspect what it is a case where they are just trying to point out that this corporation is not listening to any of these requests or responded. So he bought a bungalow for whatever 154 dot or dash 155 SGD loyalty is really worth. So the fact that he bought a bungalow seems to be about the only thing of importance here as far as botany. And maybe the bungalows are all a lie, maybe it's just a way to rob people and then steal their money or steal their loyalty. Like, inherently that is the sad part about this, is that even if you did have a special currency that was uniquely only to your corporation, still the corporations would get greedy and they would try to rip you off one way or another to reduce it. There was the... Can't pick that up, interesting. The Amazon cup here I also wanted to mention. I assume this is supposed to be Amazon.com for Amazon University, and that the other university is Hilton University, as in Hilton Hotels. But notably, the logo here does not have the familiar smiley face swoosh that Amazon advertises itself with now. So this goes downward to irrigation. Then we have more of a memory. To be recovered here. You have a unique, like, Zen garden type area. Mug that says jazz. And potting soil. And what looks like a drain. And it doesn't seem like there's a way to shield this. So here's a memory again. And then here's another memory here. Interesting. When this one closes, it puts up a full-on screen. This guy's just standing in the corner. That seems oddly strange. And then I do feel like they are getting less and less designed and more. Here's a fancy future toothbrush. Does feel like they're getting more and more glitched. All kinds of sunglasses. Seeds, squash seeds. Squash seeds. Playing cards. Water. I question specifically if it's that important to have a place where you can put things back instead of just throwing things away or having them disappear or be collected anyways. See, this guy is trying to send his son to Amazon University also. Although, wasn't this... We'll have to double check, but... why would you buy a bungalow and be trying to send your son to college? Seems like somebody is being dishonest. And that may very well be what happens here, is that we just realize that everybody is lying about something and being fairly dishonest with someone else, and the lies are the things that caused perhaps Odin to go crazy. This guy seems to be eating and smoking a lot for somebody you would have thought would have been a little bit more healthy, but maybe not so much. We still haven't really found a code to do, however, or a lock for the code. So I think the right thing to do would be to start this part of the recording. At a certain point, I probably should save and quit also. But yeah, we've gone over an hour. There surprisingly hasn't been a new mystery, but there has been a moving of the story forward. The first act tells us that they're running out of oxygen. The second act tells us that they all go into cryostasis, and maybe the doctor is going to let Natalie or Nat go into cryostasis with a heart condition and die. But I'm not 100% sure if that's really the case, because I think it's more the case that she was the one that was left out of stasis to fix the drone. But it's kind of hard to even pay attention to a story when there is such a small amount of story here. I personally would have preferred taking an editor's knife to what has been shown to me. I could be proven wrong, certainly, and it could be that every single scene we've seen where somebody's just playing music has some deeper, more important element to it. But on the face of it, it looks like there are just a lot of filler memories that have been added to the game that you could have cut out to have a tighter, more concise experience. And it's not like this game is short at this rate. Like, we are looking at a 6-hour game that potentially could have been chopped down to a 3-hour game or thereabout and told just a concise story. And it seems very much like it's teasing the idea that there's extra secrets to be found in those extra memories, but I'm not seeing it, really. All I'm hearing is a bunch of music, and the music doesn't seem to really play a role. Unless they're going to ask me some giant quiz at the end of the game to go find music pieces as part of a giant code, which maybe that is going to be the twist, but that requires you to kind of get to the end of the game, and I'm not sure that every player would make it to the end of the game at this rate, because it's just moving very slowly. Like, actively, if this was a horror game and we were being chased by like a space alien, you would have sections that are fairly gated off and fairly linear, where you investigate an area and then the monster finds you again and chases you to the next area, and then that would potentially keep you going forward, where it's very possible that you just wander around for as long as you like in each of these sections. And that was true for Gone Home also. Like, there is a better version even of Gone Home, really, where you have the player's hand held a little bit more, and you get more of a guidance as to you need to get from point A to point B to point C. Certainly, as games become more and more ADHD, players want to be told what to do as quickly as possible and know what to do as quickly as possible. They don't want any level of uncertainty or confusion as far as what your next goal is and what you should do. And certainly those are the problematic points of older games, certainly, is when you are just left with a misunderstanding about what the goal is. Certainly, I'm using that word too much. If you think about old text-based games like Colossal Cave or something like that, where you literally had to just type in text to figure out what to do, that is the antithesis of what people want today. You want to be shown everything, you want to be told everything, you want it to be an interactive movie, not a jigsaw puzzle. This feels too much like a jigsaw puzzle. Anyways, we've already gone long, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good